it didn't even show. Oh, okay.
There you go.
Got it. Okay. I thought they were recording this one, so that's good.
We're not able to stream the breakout rooms, but we're able to record them and put them online for afterwards.
Perfect. Thanks. That's great.
Yeah. So we are. That looks like a very recent photograph. That's a cool profile picture that you've got there, Lucia.
Oh, thank you. Actually, it's 5 years ago, I think,
when
I was still in the, it's just that my hair are now going back to that.
But, exactly, but I also saw the blue lanyard, and I thought, maybe that's
yeah, it's true. No, this was the International Year of Lights celebration in Paris at UNESCO. That was the
okay.
that ceremony. Yeah, so
that
one. 6 years ago. Wow, time flies.
Nice.
But I'm rejuvenating. You see, my face is always the same.
Hey, you are our Dorian Gray.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a program that is going to be quite quick. So I hear Neera's power situation is a little bit on and off. So I'm just going to give a little bit of an intro to the session. So this session is between now, 10 o'clock Central African time, and 1 p.m. Central African time. We have a little bit of a welcome and introduction, and then if you have the program in front of your eyes, it's parallel session to communications, education, and outreach. We actually have all the members of our subcommittee are going to lead a mini discussion, each on their area of expertise and focus. So I think this is going to be a really, really interesting series of conversations, and I will be frantically taking notes and trying to gather as much information as possible to be able to report this afternoon in the main session. So the first conversation, we start with the discussion of the flagship project that we have already that's already been presented on Monday by Neeruj, which is the continental solar system. And maybe you were there on Monday, maybe you weren't, but it was followed by a discussion about astronomy hubs led by Kevin. And I think between this continental solar system and the geographical location of hubs or astronomy centers and things like that, we have the possibility to assign an orbit of a solar system object to basically any facility that wants to be part of this movement. So I think it's very much a sort of a win-win situation, but Neeraj will tell you more about that in a minute. Then we're going to discuss Planetaria. That's going to be led by Lucia. Then we're going to something that I think will have quite a bit of overlap, a science centers discussion that will be led by MJ from the Cape Town Science Center. And then, as all these facilities also play a big role in education, we're moving towards education and the African NAIC network. So the NAICs are the National Astronomy Education Coordinators that are the network set up by the IU Office of Astronomy Education. So Sally is the South African NAIC coordinator, so she's going to lead that discussion. Then we have a schools discussion that will be led by Sibile. And if he isn't there, maybe Buzani can do that. Or, oh no, Sibile, you're here. Okay, fantastic. I hadn't seen you. Oh, that's great. Okay, so we have Sibile leading that discussion. And then we have, after the schools, a discussion of amateur astronomers and amateur associations that will be led by Daniel. I think this is sort of a natural evolution of our topic. Then we're going to discuss astrotourism, which will be led by Anthony. And then we will have a leading to more private sector aspects and industry discussion that will be led by Anton from Sorel. And then we're going to leave a little bit of time for completely wild ideas, because this GA doesn't come around in Africa very often. This is the first time in over 100 years. And this is really an opportunity to come up with completely wild ideas and see what we can come up with. So one sort of portfolio that we haven't got represented here, for example, is the arts and the culture community. So, really think outside of our usual, say, education and outreach and communications roles, but see how we can engage, more broadly just with this topic of astronomy towards 2024. And then Neeraj will lead a conversation about Pan-African coordination so that we can sort of try to make sure that we know, like, people who are willing to do what, so that we can sort of keep track also running up to 2024. And then after that, I will try to consolidate in as much as I can these conversations, which I think will be really, really great. And then we close at 1 o'clock. So yeah, it's going to be a long and intense session. I know some people will come in and out, that's okay. As long as we keep the conversations lively and the ideas flowing. So yeah, so thank you. I don't know, Neeraj, if you want to say a couple of words, or otherwise you can start directly with the flagship project discussion.
Sure, yeah. I'm back now. Looks like power situation is a bit better, so that's good. Yeah, so I just want to say something which kind of struck me, which is that I think one of the unique things about the African astronomy community, which is us, is that we actually place equal importance to outreach education as we do to science, right? I don't think any other society across the world devotes exactly half its time to outreach like we do. I think that's very, very important. And I think that also tells us not only that we place importance to outreach, but also the fact that in a continent like Africa with a lot of diversity of astronomy, placing importance on education outreach is as important, is as crucial as placing importance on science. And you cannot have development of science without developing outreach in education. So I think that's something we should all be proud about, because that's, I think, unique to Africa. So that's what I wanted to kind of say, and say, let's pat ourselves on the back, because that's something that is very cool we have. Having said that, so let me just pull up the slides from yesterday. Whether do you all agree? Do you all agree that we are unique because we have so much emphasis on outreach? What do you all think?
I definitely agree. I think it's and it's the only way. Education is often sort of undervalued, but I think this is the only way we're going to grow the community. So it's yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, I think other societies should learn from us. Okay, so of course, and I think so. This is slides I showed yesterday. The idea, of course, just to recapitulate for those who didn't come yesterday, is that we need a large flagship project for outreach and education, which will unite all of Africa and also be ambitious enough in scope. Therefore, what we thought we would do is to have a two-scale model of the solar system across Africa. And what does two-scale mean? We put the sun in Table Mountain because IAGA is going to be in Cape Town, and we decide that the orbit of Neptune is going to pass through Algiers, Rabat, and Tunis. And that fixes the distance of and the diameter of every planet and solar system object on Africa, right? And if you do that, the right-hand side shows you the orbits of 8 planets. It's not the final orbits, but it's an earlier version. And the red bands are basically covering the eccentricities, so the eccentricity of the orbit. And the idea is that each planet's orbit, let's say Saturn, goes through 4 or 5 countries, right? And therefore, each country can choose to put up a station or a hub at a location which is near the orbit or inside the orbit, which is suitable for them, like a big city or a town or so on. And therefore, we would have as many centers as there are countries through which the orbit passes, right? But of course, many countries are left out of this. And therefore, what we thought we would do is to kind of add more objects. So like I said, each country can host a solar system station. Therefore, we thought we'd include Halley's Comet and asteroids to cover the rest of the countries, right? So at least one object's orbit will pass through every country. So this is an example of the Uranus orbit. The red band again is for the electricity, and this is South Africa, and because we adopt a linear scale, the inner planets are all in South Africa, right? So what we do is we take Halley's Comet orbit, the possible orbits depending on which position angle you choose, and we choose the red one for some reasons, and then we take the 8 largest centaur asteroids, and then they're very, very eccentric, and therefore we arrange the orbits such that every country has at least one orbit passing through it, right? So after we do this entire exercise, This is what we get. It's kind of a complicated figure, but this basically has the orbits of all the planets, Halley's Comet, and the 8 Centaur asteroids. And if we do that, every country has at least one orbit passing through this, right? So that's the idea. And what we do then, so at each country can choose any location along the orbit and have a station. This could be a high school or a university department or a planetarium or a science center or something new, right? They could designate a new building to be this station. And then this can evolve into a national center for astronomy and science education. It could host posters, exhibits, computer rooms with Wi-Fi, amateur astronomy clubs, small telescopes, the model of the object whose orbit passes through it, and so on. And therefore, and then if it even employ trainers and science communicators, this then becomes the national site for developing astronomy and all of science, right? And not only that, each of these centers can then coordinate with each other through Wi-Fi and so on, and therefore, and then pursue joint astronomy and science activities. You could have joint talks, you could have joint experimental projects. The students can just talk to each other from different countries and so on. So all of that is possible in this kind of a setup, right? And therefore, it's good to kind of start this with at least a few countries who already have existing facilities, which they can identify and build on it. And then slowly we kind of talk to every country, and then they come in and they kind of figure out how they want to do it, right? Because all of this is, each country has to do this the way they feel is correct for them, right? And Kevin then talked of astronomy hubs, like I said, and the astronomy hubs, which kind of combine science and outreach. Flagship project centers would then be the logical place where this goes to. And
hello?
Yeah, hello.
Certified copy of Caroline's ID, just
Hello?
let me know if you want to see, So
I think
Somebody needs to be muted. Okay, so that's basically it. That's the idea we have. But of course, this is just an idea, and it needs a lot of work if you want to see it through, as well as make sure the idea gets modified by inputs from every stakeholder across the continent. So the idea of this discussion today is to get all your inputs in and try and kind of adapt this to something which is viable and feasible, and also identify what the next steps are. So I'll just stop there.
great. Thank you, Neeraj. So what do you all think about this? Do you see yourselves attaching a solar system orbit to existing centers? Do you see yourself setting up new centers and naming them after solar system objects? Do you think this is a good way to raise awareness of the solar system and of all the objects, and to network across African countries? I see Oke is quite enthusiastic there. Thank you so much. The floor is open. Anybody has any ideas to share with this? Yes, Priscilla, go ahead.
Thank you, Neeraj, for the presentation. I think it's a wonderful idea. I think it's one innovative way to really do outreach. I just have an inquiry. You mentioned something about, for instance, if the orbit goes through a certain place, the institute or whatever it is that you want to set up should be along the orbit. True? Or?
Well, I think that's up to the country to decide, right? If it's convenient for them to have something at the orbit, fine. But if they decide that we're going to build it 100 kilometers away, that's fine too, right? We just want, this orbit is just basically a hook for the astronomy content. So I think every country will have its own geographical, demographic, etc. constraints, which we can't really decide about. So yeah, I think countries should be free to kind of decide where in their country they would represent these objects the way they see it.
Okay, that's fine then. That's what I wanted to be sure about.
Anybody else? Oh, I see we have Sonal here. Great to see you, Sonal.
Hi, Carolina. Good to see you too. Hi, everyone.
So now the astrotourism conversation is a little bit later, but we really look forward to having your input on that. And I see we have Tadina as well. Tilina, you have a lot of experience in outreach. Oh, I see Brett has a hand up. Brett, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, sorry, I'm shaky with my voice because I was sick, but I typed a couple of questions in the chat. I was just wondering about if there's funding for this, or if each country would kind of come up with funding on their own. And before in the talk, I don't think today, but I think it was the day before yesterday when you talked about this, I think you mentioned not only the scale of the orbits would be done, but the scale of the objects as well. And I was wondering how that would be incorporated with comparing, like, say, the sun to one of these asteroids.
Yeah, if I can kind of maybe address that. So we would like the distances and the sizes to be to scale, but I guess sometimes it's not possible. For example, in this scale, sun is 2.5 kilometers, right? And Table Mountain, we kind of say, okay, fine, that's 200 kilometers. But then Jupiter is going to be 250 meters. And you might or might not be able to find something which is that large. In some sense, I think this is if we can present this as a vision, I would suppose each country will have to take a call on how they want to represent it, isn't it? What do you think? If you make it very strict, saying you have to find a 250 meter building, then I don't think it's going to happen. We might have to be very flexible on each country deciding how they want to do this. Maybe. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I like the sound of that. It gives a lot of kind of room for creativity amongst the different countries to kind of do things their own way, but still to kind of unify across the continent. So,
but the idea here is not that we present this project and then and then it gets carried out. The idea is that this is the idea we have, so we want all your inputs to kind of figure out whether it's feasible. If so, what the next steps are, how do we do this, and so on. So yeah. Lucia has a hand up.
Yeah, hi. No, I like this idea to have this team, that unify across Africa, and we can use that to plug in events and a storyboard, that we can use. I was wondering if you during the hopefully in person, and the experience that they will get away is going to be very much based on what they do to all these different stations, which is something that came up during the first day, I think, when we were thinking about this magic portal that could connect to the different station. But I think it would be very nice to not only have this network of events that are connected, but also to have a physical contact somehow with this. So I was wondering if you have a plan for that already, or if we have to think about that.
I think we have to make the plan in this meeting.
Okay. No. It sounds good. I mean, for Planetaria, I mean, we can think about dome casting between different domes across Africa if they have the technology, for example. But there are few planetarium that are able to do that. I think across the continent that's going to be challenging. So I was just brainstorming. I was just thinking if you have an idea already, or we have to think about that.
Didn't Kevin mention during Astronomy Hub's talk that live telecast of certain GA talks can be done at these hubs, or wasn't that mentioned somewhere?
It could be. I mean, I wasn't able to follow all the discussion these days because I was really split up between different meetings. So it could possibly be, but I'm asking for that reason. So if I missed that, sorry.
No, I don't remember whether he said it or not. I'm also confused. I was wondering if he did. Because that might be one thing to do, but
yeah, no, I think.
Do you need me to clarify anything?
Yeah, maybe just.
Yeah.
Yeah, please just clarify the notion of hubs potentially broadcasting sessions from the GA as well. And then we have a comment from Moses.
Okay, just very quickly, so the idea with the hubs is that if we can't get everyone to attend in person, or we want some sort of combination of in-person, hybrid, and so on, then the hubs can be used as broadcast points. But where there'd be a gathering of people physically, and then they would join. So that group of people in some part of Africa will join remotely to the group of people in Cape Town, and maybe groups of people in other places as well. So that's the idea of joining remotely. But also the hubs can be places that form the epicenter of astronomical activities. Could be outreach, could be science, could be having a small telescope that serves the region, and so on.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. Yeah, I think I missed that part. Sorry.
Yeah, I think it's yeah. Okay, so Moses, your turn.
Yeah, I was following up on Lucia's comment and question there, and that I think it's a great idea to have that, and to make the event feel even more African. It would be cool to have like even a live stream or something when people arrive at, let's say, the CTICC, and in some sessions to be able to see, hey, this is an observatory, in this country, or facility in this country. And with the timeline of having to build some of these facilities, we may not necessarily have all the sort of buildings and things linked to all these orbits in time, but we could definitely have, let's say, a live stream of other facilities there. So even if it's not tied to necessarily these orbits, we could still have some kind of way of showing what's happening or what's there in other parts of the continent live at the meeting.
And we colonize the airport in Cape Town, so we do an exhibition there. So everybody that passed through the airport in those 2 weeks will see the astronomy in Africa.
That's quite awesome.
Oh, that's a lovely idea. Yeah.
We should colonize, all those places.
Maybe not use the term. Maybe don't use that term.
Nah, sorry. No, bad.
That's a one way to not get at the airport.
Exactly.
But with all those ads that people see when they arrive, like that they're plastered, I mean, it might be too expensive for us, but maybe there is a way we can collaborate with the airport
I think
visualize
there is a
something.
way. I think in the GA in Hawaii, they did have some sort of signs that the GA was going on at the airport, and that sounds quite. I think it was in that occasion. But anyway, I mean, it would be nice to have already, the experience starting, I think, and have an opportunity to showcase, what's happening around the country, even though you're arriving in Cape Town, maybe, around the continent, sorry, not the country.
And that's a really good idea. And maybe we can even put, flags on the access road.
Yes.
So Caroline says a comment here, excellent idea to collaborate with the airports. The tourism Indaba do it in Durban for the days that the Indaba are on. Okay, so this is a really, really great idea. I've made a good note of it. And I think in terms of program, oh no, we're still good. Sorry, I'm ahead of time. Let's keep going.
Can I ask sort of one other thing I was going to ask with the idea presented by Banuch, as I think all of us agree, it's a great idea. The one thing I was thinking about is timelines, and what would you want to show or have at least done by the GA itself?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Because it would definitely be nice to have something kind of to show people at the GA, even if we don't have everything there. And they're thinking about what we'd want to show and how much we'd want to get done by then. Great.
So I think if we have hubs by then that are sort of satellite broadcasts of the GA for the region and things like that, those would naturally, be named beforehand. And but there's possibly, we could maybe have a launch of the solar system at the GA. I see, Neeraj, your hand is up.
Quick point. So Moses' question I think is very important. And in that context, I was wondering, So every hub in each country is going to be made differently, right? For reasons of finance, logistics, politics, infrastructure, and so on. So there's not going to be a uniform model imposed by anybody. Each country has to take ownership and decide how they want to do it. So I was wondering if people here from various countries have some initial idea as to how it would work in their country. What would it take to start the process and so on?
Silence is echoing. Okay, then maybe we need to turn the question around and say.
I think Sally's hand is up. Sorry.
I've got something. Sorry, it took me a while to find the raised hand
see Sally button. And Lucia, go ahead.
I think this is also something we could make use of the hubs that we actually already have in place, or we're starting to establish the NEAC hub and the which is I'm going to be talking about later on, and the outreach hub, of course, as well. So these are also different networks that we can make use of, potentially approach them and ask them if they can help us with these different projects in the different countries. Yeah.
Great. I see Lucia, your hand is up as well.
Yeah, sorry, I don't want to monopolize the discussion. I was just thinking how we can connect to these different hubs and have them present, apart from the airport, also in the exhibition space. I guess we could have a sort of recreated map of the solar system and have like each hub, if, with their flagship project or what is happening in the country as an exhibition spot in that, recreated solar system that we can create in Cape Town. So maybe in that different spots, it can be highlighted as well. And maybe there is a webcam as well, a computer with a webcam of a station that people in that country can join if there is a meeting at the same time. That could also be something quite easy in a sense of, organization wise. It depends on of what is going on in the different apps, I guess. But also if nothing is happening in those 2 weeks, we can still have like a small exhibitions that shows, what is happening on Mars, on Jupiter, or what's going on in general in that country.
Oh, that's a cool idea. I see Sarah, your hand is up as well.
Yes, hello, good morning. Sorry, I joined late. I got confused with the whole time thing.
No worries. It's great to have you here.
Yes, I was just going to say, if you're talking like the minimum that could be done, because I'm still, this whole idea of putting together hubs, I think in some places it will work very well, in others, it might be a bit challenging, and we're not too sure about, there'll be some funding and things. But I would have thought, wherever it is, if it's a school, or in Ghana, we're lucky, we've got an observatory and we have a planetarium. We thought you could do, quite a low cost, just making the model of the whatever object is supposed to be in your country, at least a to scale model of that object, and ideally maybe some kind of exhibition. I think you can do some nice simple things. If you've got a group of kids, you can get them to do drawings and things, and you have a whole exhibition of your model and then where it fits in the solar system, that kind of thing. And again, I'm sorry if I missed it, but is the idea that on some point during the GA there'd be you'd connect to these different hubs, maybe either like you said, either a webcam showing it, or they could call in, so you'll see, oh, now we're going to Ghana and look at Uranus, now we're going to Kenya and look at whatever. Is there something like that? Or
that sounds really, really good. Neeraj, was that you? Did you want to say something?
No, not me.
Oh, okay, great. So so Neeraj asked, what ideas people have in their countries to set this up. But I think maybe we can turn the question and say, what is it that you need to set something like this up in the different countries? And I see there's quite a few comments in the chat as well. Let me see, let me just check up. Hilda says she likes the novelty of the idea of promoting the GA, but wondering if the idea can be extended for teaching purposes, scale, etc., possibly creating some kind of interactive thing where the sun can be recentered on different places. Okay, so Neeraj, you can definitely reply to that. And then Brett also comment that in the simplest sense, things places could put an information sign under plastic about object and the event, like you would find at a park. Yes, definitely. Yeah, no, it's a range of, you can do the minimum, but you can also do the maximum. So yeah, Neeraj, did you want to reply? Oh, to Hilda. Yeah, okay, I see you reply in the chat.
I was replying on the chat.
Yeah, okay, great. I don't see any other hands raised. I think this is such an inspiring idea. And yeah, we could put signage up. We could have a whole, like a building, a new center, maybe with both research and education happening there and so on. So I think there's really scope to shape that in each country as it fits that. Some countries maybe won't have a lot of funding, so they'll do something a little bit more modest. But if you have a plaque in a park, you can still bring schools in and have a presentation about the solar system and things like that. You could put it, you could maybe make it as a, as an observation spot to do, to do stargazing. There's a lot of things that can be done. Yeah, so if any of you could have any idea of what sort of support you would need, and if you know of places in your country that could become that center. Some places may already exist, if there's a center like in the observatory or the planetarium in Ghana. Sarah, your hand is still up. Is that an old hand or is it a new one?
It's a new one. Sorry, I'm just going to quickly say this isn't about the funding, but I just suddenly thought, although yes, we do have an observatory and a planetarium, and those seem like obvious places to put some kind of model or exhibition. Of course, it would also be really good to have that model somewhere completely different, where it's going to find a different audience, like in a shopping mall or a market or a taxi station or something. I mean, maybe it wouldn't be permanent. Maybe it could be a temporary thing, and you have some sort of volunteers and they put it up there, and then hopefully you have people thinking, what on earth is that, and coming to talk to you about it. And then you can talk a bit about astronomy in your country or something. That might be quite cool as well.
Definitely. In fact, there was, Lucia ran a couple of years ago before the pandemic, a soapbox science event where there was a number of all-female scientists. Actually, this was the premise of specifically soapbox science, standing on a soapbox and just talking to people about the science they do. And it was at the waterfront in Cape Town, which is a big tourist area. And a lot of people who didn't expect to be faced with anything science during that day, because this is sort of a shopping and touristy area, I really stopped and listened, and it was really a nice form of engagement. Vanessa, did you? Oh, I see Moses' hand is up, and then Vanessa Moss also replies. Moses?
Yeah, I think that was a good point was raised there. Thank you, about reaching places we wouldn't ordinarily reach. And I think that's an important point in this is as well, to think in those terms of too, like communities that either through their isolation or through other, or just general areas where, I mean, I'm thinking places where people wouldn't necessarily be doing this sort of thing. It would be good to find ways to connect to them as well. And having a presence there besides having a structure up, for example, like having people there would really be great. And maybe organizing these sorts of satellite events to connect with everything.
That sounds great. I'm scribbling notes furiously right now. Yeah, Vanessa Moss says, agree with Sarah, seems like a really good chance to reach the non-typical audiences with astronomy. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think it's a really good opportunity to bring astronomy to the people instead of trying to bring people to the astronomy. Thierry says, building small planetariums across the continent, especially in the countries where there isn't one yet. I think that's also a very good comment, like really use this as an opportunity to build something where there isn't. So I'll make a note of that. Sure, it looks like the conversation is really happening in the chat. Shamiso says that Chimiso, why don't you, Thierry Chimiso, why don't you give your comments by voice?
Thank you so much, Carolina, for giving me this opportunity to raise a point to the community. So, good morning, everyone. First, building a small planetarium across the continent will be some things like physical infrastructures that will allow people to get in mind. There is now. It's not just a talk. It's not just idea. Just theories, but it is a practical mind to get involved, and where people could be something that will gather people, and they will be in physical presence to share ideas together and make constellations on stars, moons, lunes, etc. So that will change the perspectives of astronomy and taking in consideration across the continent, I guess. So for a moment, that's the point. That's
a really nice idea. Thank you so much, Thierry. And Chamiso says, Chamiso says in the chat that she'll be attending a workshop on astronomy beyond the common senses for accessibility and inclusion. And it would be great to see what they are doing, how we can add that to the flagship project, but also be inclusive to people with disabilities. That's a really, really excellent point that we need to think of, especially right from the beginning, especially if something new is going to come out of this. How can we get it right from the start? So definitely I'm making a note of that. Anybody else? Just take the floor and give us your ideas. This is a really, really cool discussion. We have 1 minute left before we go to the next one. So it's really the time to get your idea across if you have a good idea about this.
Hi, yes, I've got an idea along with from what Sheil was saying. I think that's a wonderful idea, and maybe it's something that we can actually work in right from the start. So have maybe just a few items or a list of things that every hub needs to coordinate on. So say every hub or every point needs to be disability friendly, and every point needs to have certain things that, so there is collaboration or some syncing between all of the different hubs. So maybe establish a set of, not rules I want to say, but before.
Okay, some guidelines or some
guidelines,
best practices. Yeah. Okay,
yes.
No, that's excellent. That's a really good idea. Okay, we have to move on to the next topic now, but Chris, I'm saving the chat, so your comment is not lost. I'm just conscious of the time. So the next discussion is now, well, it could continue. It'll be a 15-minute discussion on the role of planetaria in communications, education, and outreach head of the General Assembly. And this will be led by Lucia. So Lucia, over to you.
Okay, hi. So let me also, I like to show my face. Hi.
Nice to see you.
Yeah. So I'm thanks for this opportunity to focus our discussion around planetaria. So you have possibly seen my talk, my 2-minute intervention from the African Planetarium Association. I assume everybody is now aware of what the African Planetarium Association is, and that we are operating as the affiliate of the International Planetarium Society to foster the network of planetaria across Africa and also foster capacity building around planetaria. Because as Thierry rightly says, if we can bring a planetaria where there is no other astronomy meaning already, that is already something that would help to foster the astronomy across the country. So I would like to hear from you, really. I mean, I have some slides that I put together just to focus on our discussion around what we can in principle do. So let me just see if I can share my screen. These are mainly the slides that I've already presented, but I want to focus us. So do you see my presentation now?
Yes.
Okay. So the Africa Planetarium Association, you know what it is. We do have members now. So this is the picture of our current members across Africa. Okay, we are a reasonable new association, so we are starting to build a network as well. So bear with us if you haven't heard from us much, but we are fostering now, and possibly in the next few months you will hear more, because we are going to engage more with the community. So we do have 46 members. We do have different members in these different African countries already. Okay. But we do have some also from outside Africa that would like to contribute to our mandate anyway. So if you haven't contacted us already, if you're not a member of us, but you want to join us because you feel like you could contribute for the APA, but also looking forward to the GA, please let us know, because it's the moment to do it, because otherwise it's going to be too late afterwards. So these are the committees that are really going to do the different work within the IPA. And I think I want to focus on two, well, actually three. So the membership and news, of course, I mean, is straightforward. We want to build a network, so that is going to be important. But really the work that we would like to do is to create planetary growth and capacity building, because to start with. So it's not a matter of having a planetarium and having that shaped, you know, and set up. We also want to make sure that whoever has a planetarium is able to use it properly and has some content as well. So we want to build all the knowledge around that as well. Because, I mean, maintaining a planetarium, even an inflatable one, can be more costly even that you don't know. So basically, it's important to build this community. We do have a partnership stakeholder relationship and fundraising committee, which I'm chairing as part of the exec. And this is really the one that will try to pull strings and get the funding somehow ongoing, or a discussion. And the planetarium content creation as well is another point that I think we could touch as a flagship program that we could bring into the planetarium if we have the expertise. I know we have the expertise because we have funded some of the creation with African content, and it would be nice to have possibly a new shows that is premiered during the GA maybe. So why not? I also want us to focus a little bit on the fact that is the GA. So the IAU is going to be a protagonist in this event. And as much as we want to highlight the African continent, if we do that through the different offices and angle of interest of the IAU, it's going to be much, much more easier to engage the larger community of professional astronomers as well that will be engaged during the meeting. So these are the angle, of course, so education, communication, development, and research, of course. That the IAU is promoting, and of course, I mean, the education and communication in planetarium is straightforward. Research is going to be I mean, there is going to be an angle, but that is really more relevant for the other parallel session that is going on right now, so I'm not going to focus on that. And to talk about the relationship, we already know that the IPS has an interest into fostering the network of planetarium across Africa, has already engaged with the IAU through the Commission C2, and they are working together to bring more education and outreach material into the dome, as well as some research. But as I said, this is not relevant for this communication, for this meeting. And it's really a global effort. So yesterday I was giving a talk at the Visualization IEEE conference, which was really representing how the dome can contribute to the different aspects in education and research. So it's really, there are a lot of people interested in this topic. It's not just Africa and how we can develop it. And I think we could find different partners that could help us in this effort. So this is my introduction, okay, to this discussion. And this is a slide that I would like to try to populate with your help during this, 10 minutes. So these are the different angles. As I said, we're going to have a research, a big data visualization immersive environment focus on meeting, possibly, that will touch on that. but how we can bring, the planetarium into this. And we're gonna start from now to build the capacity building, really. So any ideas? And I'm going top then down. I don't see a lot of discussion going on. Anyone has an idea already? Daniel, yes, go ahead.
Sorry, it always takes a minute to find the hand. No, I mean, I think that this is great, and I think that the work that's already getting done, I think the fact that it's already set up and running is perfect. From the content point of view, obviously, I think that's, there's a huge demand. We know that already,
Yes.
and a huge lack of African content, and I think that's getting that out as far as possible is essential. And I mean, we're not just talking about showing it in African planetaria, but around the world. So
yes,
so I think that there's a huge amount of value there, and I think that there'll be more and more digital planetaria coming in the next few years too. So we should make sure that we are including these new planetaria in South Africa and abroad as soon as possible, and making sure that we're supporting them.
Yes, thanks, Daniel. Good point. I mean, as I said, I mean the network is there. We do need to engage with the different new, upcoming planetaria, which are more advanced in a sense that they are already going digital, as well as we are trying to is the different levels. So bringing an inflatable planetarium where there is nothing, right? And then at the other level is engaging the digital planetarium that are growing to make sure that we are in the same, network, and we can foster this content creation, capacity building, and shared knowledge. So I think that those are all good points. And so, yes, thanks. Thierry?
Yes, thanks, Lucia, for your presentations. That's something that I want to suggest is it would be nice if you had some kind of guideline that will allow astronomers to set for their presentations when we are doing constellations during the constellation program. So I don't know if you can. I didn't find it anywhere yet. Kind of guideline that will help people to astronomers mostly to be more professional and follow the constellations manner. That's the first one. The second point, as a flagship project that we can do, I'm thinking on bringing how's it called? Telescope. Yeah, that's it. Telescope to countries where there is not yet. So people will, that's with allow people, I would say model telescope that people could use to make constellations and more accessible to everyone. So that's by my side.
Sorry, Thierry, I think you broke up, at least on my side. So the first point you make is about constellation and about a pipeline or a deadline. I didn't get what you were saying. Sorry about that. Can you repeat?
Guideline document. A guideline document.
Guideline. Okay, now okay. Sorry, sorry. My okay. Yeah. So how we can bring that? Yes. So definitely that's something that we are looking into providing. Instruction somehow in the capacity building and planetary growth working group. All these different angles should be touched upon. And I mean, for the telescope angle, you're right. That's another point. But I mean, this is really about the planetarium. So I leave that to the rest of the committee to reply on that. Sarah.
Yes, this point is actually a bit of a general point, I suppose. Just following on from the discussion about, or the point you made about local content for the planetarium, which is, yes, definitely is needed. The other thing that would be helpful, because I guess, creating a whole planetarium show is quite a challenging undertaking, but the other thing that would be helpful is being able to translate existing planetarium shows. We find that in Ghana, even though the official language is English, obviously there are local languages, and of course the people's ability to speak English varies a great deal. But the other thing is, even when people can speak English, there's a different kind of intonation. So somebody speaking, even someone speaking English, a Ghanaian speaking English with a Ghanaian accent would be easier to understand than any other English speaker, if you see. So I said, I know this is sort of a general thing, but if there's, some kind of general technical guidelines on what are the different ways that you can put your own, your own soundtrack, whether it's in a local language, whether it's English, but from a local person or something like that.
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, this is a good point. I actually would like Daniel to respond to this, because I'm sure he thought about this quite a lot when they were preparing their own planetarium show. And I think, if I may, before I give the word to Daniel, I think also the problem with the local content is really like, the framework that is used is mostly northern hemisphere, so all the sky is reversed. So also the point of reference are different, and that's why there is the need to have a focus on the southern hemisphere, and especially from Africa, which is and possibly African culture. So it's a combined problem, language and content. But I'd like Daniel to comment on that as well. Daniel, you're muted.
Sorry, so many buttons to press. Okay. I think that the language thing is definitely a very interesting struggle, and I think that in South Africa alone we have this problem. Well, it's not a problem. It's an opportunity. I think that we can access a lot more people if we offer these films in different languages. With Rising Star, our first film, we're currently working on creating new soundtracks in different languages. That is obviously the hardest thing to do, because it's a lot of effort. The timing is very important, so that would be the ideal but hardest thing to do. Once you have a script, of course, you just need the voiceover, but to get all the timing and everything correct is it's a bit of effort, and it is expensive. In terms of our latest film is shot in Afrikaans, and we have put a lot of effort into subtitles. So we have English subtitles. We've had to think quite carefully about where you put those subtitles, so that you don't distract from the show, but also so that they're easily visible. I know that subtitles do exclude children, but that is an easy option and can be easily updated into any language. It's pretty simple to translate text, and we can offer a planetarium film with its subtitles, which can be translated into any language around the world. So that's definitely the easiest and probably the option that I would encourage.
Thanks, Daniel. Yeah, good point. And I would also remind everybody that planetarium business is a costly business. Okay, so we don't have to underestimate how much it can cost to produce a production like that. So a lot of ideas can be done, but at the end, you have to face the idea that without a lot of fundings that could maybe be spent in another way, okay, we are not going to go anywhere with a production. So, you have to average out the success rate and the impact you will have, on the different aspect. Egwin, Timothy, do you have a comment?
Yes, good morning from Nigeria. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, we can.
All right. I want to comment on development, on capacity building and planetarial growth initiative. From experience and from some of the things we are doing in Nigeria, just like you said, the major challenge we have in planetarium business is the cost. Yeah. Right. We have different types of planetarium. We have the mobile planetarium and the immobile planetarium. So I think if there is any way you people can help, or there is a way we can have content for mobile planetariums, because what it will cost you to produce a non-mobile planetarium is far more expensive to produce the mobile ones that we can use for educational purposes. So looking at that development and the capacity building. So if there is a way you guys can give us content, or there's a way we can look at developing mobile planetariums that will be less expensive, I think that will be great.
Thanks, Timothy. Actually, there is a project ongoing now, which is under the AFAS, is a shared working group now, I think, between the APA and AFAS, looking exactly to affordable planetarium ideas. So also, I mean, from the hardware perspective, so how we can, beat the cost of such a structure. And then, content, apart from local content, there are a lot of free material already available for planetaria. But of course, I mean, the hardware part and the novel creation of content for a full dome or a master, as we call it, that is the challenge, of course. Thanks, though. Tsiamiso?
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry, Lucia, I think we have to move on to the next topic.
Oh, okay, yeah, sorry, I wasn't looking to... I wasn't looking to the timing. Sorry. Okay, so I have to. So Tsiamiso, sorry.
But I'm going to send the link to the Google Doc just now.
Okay.
In fact, yeah. So I'll do that just now. The next topic that we're going to, hopefully, we can keep the conversation as lively as this one, is on science centers, and it will be led by MJ. MJ, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Carolina, and thanks for this opportunity. So. Cape Town is lucky enough to have its own science center, the Cape Town Science Center. So just tying in with some of the other discussion points around exhibitions and things like that, there is a lot of possibility to almost host a lot of that within the center, and also coordinate certain things within two schools. So for instance, with within the participants at the conference, there may be some speakers or other interested parties who may want to actually go and engage in some school talks and things like that, and we can very easily coordinate that. But that is just with a very localized view, that we can do a lot on the ground. But also we part of a plethora of international networks of science centers. The one that works within our region is called SOSTEC network. So that is more for Southern Africa. You get NAMES, which is Northern Africa and the Middle East. There is Red Pop, which is more the Latin American countries. There is Aztec, which is the sort of global body, but also North America. There is Excite, which is Europe, and there is ASPAC, which is more Australia, the South Pacific Islands, those sort of regions, including Asia. And with all of these networks, they have very good working relationships with one another. And a project has been done between them before, where you almost have this sort of platform where people can go and basically sign up and say, well, I'm from so-and-so and I'll be running this project on this day. So people can begin from around the globe to report on what sort of activities for astronomy they will be doing. And that's one of the things that I think science centers can help with, especially with the hubs. Something else is that we are a very good platform. That sort of platform is also very good for people looking to do something. You may want to do something in your region. Now you can go onto that platform, onto that database, and not only get ideas, but get possible collaborators. You can email someone and say, I see that you're running a fun DIY workshop on making a solar system. Do you mind sharing? Can we collaborate? And so you begin to have that space where you can catalyze other intervention and ideas. Something else that has worked quite well in some of the conferences that I've attended, and we can do a morphed version for ours, is the sort of live interviews. When I say live interviews, they can also be pre-recorded. But what science centers can do, because science centers around the globe run astronomy programs, both with public and with learners. And during these sessions that they are naturally holding around the globe, they can, in the run-up to the conference, make these short, like 2-minute videos where children, parents, public members are asking questions. And at the conference, you can literally have a little booth where someone sits down and you have the sort of 5-minute astronomy chat where they sit down. This participant from around the globe asks a question, they will respond to it. And so you get this dialogue going around space science and astronomy going. That has worked quite well. It doesn't always work very well when it's live. So sometimes the pre-recorded way works better. But there's lots of opportunity for global coordination of fun STEM activities that can be done through the Science Center networks. So that's just a couple ideas. Happy to discuss more.
Wow, that's really excellent. I see Thierry, your hand is up.
Yeah, sure. I want to second MG with some things that I have in my mind as well. Is a kind of roadshow, like a roadshow that IU can organize per countries by years to showcase astronomy and involve a lot of news in STEM as well. That will be a manner way to allow IU to evaluate the actions and the projects that are how they are going on the continent and how it could be support and get info, a lot of partners inside to those projects by justify credibility of their work and also promote STEMs across the continent. So a kind of road shows, astronomy road shows, something to, because that is something I'm organizing in my country here in Benin, on behind of Cosmolab Earth. We last, I think it was August. Yeah, we organized for the first time astronomy days in Benin. So we decide now after this event and we decide to organize roadshows in each town where to reach out students in schools that they don't have money to come down in the big in the capital, so they will be able to understand and get involved as well. So that's just what I just want to suggest it while we are here together.
Thank you for that. Roadshows is something that happens actually quite often within science centers. The unique angle there for me is looking at an astronomy focused roadshow, where majority of the ones that I'm aware of are more just general STEM, but there's definitely space and opportunity for that sort of more focused intervention.
Sounds like we have some younger participants there.
So the co-host should be able to mute any of the participants.
Yeah, I was just looking to see who it was, but it's quiet now. Okay, anybody else? We have a few more minutes to spend on science centers. I think it's really, really fascinating to see how well they are connected and networked, and sharing resources and ideas and being able to find collaborators. Seems like the platform is already there, which is fantastic. And the roadshow is also a really cool idea. I think science centers have, the science centers in South Africa definitely have experience sort of packing things up and being mobile and everything.
Follow them up there. No, yes.
Okay, I'm just going to mute.
Yeah, I'm following. I'm on.
There we go. Yeah, it worked. MJ, is there other things? Please.
Yeah, the one other thing is that, especially with the many people that will be coming here, there is the opportunity for those that maybe want to stay a few days extra and maybe want to also see other parts of South Africa, but want to also give back to the community at the same time, that we can engage with various science centers within Southern Africa. It doesn't have to just be South Africa. There is in South Africa alone over 30 centers that you can have hosting capabilities where they'll be willing to host someone for a couple of days. You get to see their part of the world, but also get to engage with people within their part of the world, going to schools and areas locally. I know just offhand of about 5-6 science centers that I know would love to host anyone from the conference afterwards, whether they be practitioners or astronomers or whatever. It's just a good opportunity, and it's an open opportunity given to people coming to the conference, that if you want to see any of these places, there is hosting opportunities.
I think that sounds absolutely fantastic. Okay, so we have 1 minute left. So if there are no additional questions, I think we can, or additional ideas or comments, you can always put them on the chat. And also they're going to be summarized in that Google Doc. The link, you can find it in the chat as well. Our next topic, and I'm loving these quick discussions, this is going so cool. Our next topic is educations and African networks. This is going to be led by Sally. So Sally, you can take over.
Hi, okay, so I'm gonna put on my camera because it just feels more natural like this. Yeah, so I'm gonna be discussing the NAG network, and I've got a few slides to show, so I'm just going to share my screen quickly. Let's see, PowerPoint. Okay. Right, just to check, do the usual check. Can you see my screen? Can you see the first slide?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Perfect. Okay, so my name is Sally. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the chair of the South African NAG team, and this discussion is going to be a basic introduction to the NAG network, and also discussing a bit of some of the challenges we're currently facing in astronomy. And this is a big ask because it's a big country. There was something that I wanted to. A big continent rather. Let me just this chat. Let's see if we'll go through. There we go. So I've just posted a link in the chat that I'm going to be discussing a little bit later. But let me get to my slides. So yeah, so let's get into it. So yesterday, 2 days ago, Shia Miso gave us a wonderful short introduction to the NAG network. So I shamelessly stole some of her slides. So just as a brief recap on the network itself, it's part of the OAE, so the Office for Astronomy Education, and it's got a number of different objectives. And here I just list some of the objectives that the office deals with. Now, what I'm hoping to achieve with this discussion is just to start the conversation going for an African-based network that can work with this whole global network and really use the platform of the GA 2024 to address some of the challenges that we're facing in astronomy education, and then try and create projects that will work towards addressing these challenges. So some of the objectives, and I'll ask Shia a bit later maybe to discuss some of these ideas that she didn't really have a chance to address, but the NEC teams and the OAE are doing some really fantastic projects that we can try and work with here in Africa as well. And these are just some of the objectives. We want to support the professionalism of astronomy education, make sure educators can find excellent resources, and I'll go into this in a bit more detail a little bit later, support the inclusion of astronomy in curricula, and of course, get astronomers active in astronomy education. And this is a very important slide for us because we don't have full African contribution, and this is something that I'd like to see by 2024, that we have all of these grey countries filled in. So if you know of anyone who would be suitable representatives of your country for astronomy education, please get in touch, send an email to the OAE, that's the address that's listed down below, or even contact myself or Shia, and we'll make sure we get you in touch. And I mean, that would be an absolutely wonderful thing by 2024 to have full coverage. So some contributions from all over the country, and so that we're working together as a continent. So this brings me to the link that I just posted in the chat. And what I want to see is, I want to see things happening. And so in order to do this, I've got some immediate plans. And the next plan is just to create a list of contacts of those. So those who are from current African NECs and anyone else who's interested. So we've had a lot of wonderful discussions about different projects in astronomy education that's been introduced to us over the last 2.5 days or so. So if you have any of these interests, if you are working in these projects, we'd like to hear from you. And in order to get this whole idea started, the focus is to look at, this is school level. So now we're addressing school level, primary and secondary level astronomy education towards, during and after the IUGA. And the idea, the immediate plan, is to create an education themed plan of action for the next couple of years that's in line with the GA 2024 vision document. And I'll just show you some of I'll talk a bit more about that in the next slide. So in order to look at that, please fill in your contact details. And then also we've just, which was the next part of the plan, was actually to start a document where we share ideas. Luckily, Carolina's just started that. So that's already a step in the right direction. So please make sure to have a look at that document as well. And just a bit of a reminder, if you haven't had a chance, please go and have a look at the 2024 vision document. I've just picked out a few of the aspects relating to astronomy education. So please don't feel you need to read everything on this slide. I hate having slides with lots of information. You can find all this information in the document, but please go and put in any contributions, what you think of these different ideas and such. And there's just a few pointers that I want to point out right now. So under the People 2024 section, one of the plans is to establish this vision document. So already by giving us your contact details, by filling in Carolina's link, we can start to create that vision document for astronomy education and outreach. Some of these other things that I don't know if we've really even touched on is the innovative use of mobile networks. Well, that's a huge issue, and I think that's something that we can discuss as well. And then just creating these connections. So, and that's already what we're starting with now, creating these connections that we can work with for the next couple of years, build this African network that can also work with the global network. And then most importantly, having a legacy. So everything, all the projects that we work on, we want to make them as sustainable as possible. So it's no good to have things that just stop at 2024. We want to make sure that people are invested in it and want it to continue. So just on the last slide, and then once I'm done with this, then we can start up the discussing. Maybe Shia can talk a bit about some of the projects that NEC and OAE are doing, and then maybe a bit of discussion amongst from other NECs in this room as well. But just some points that we might want to discuss as well here. So these are just some of the challenges that the NEC South Africa has identified. This might be, some of these might be just for South Africa, but we'll find, and by creating this network, we'll find a lot of these ideas are, we find this in all other countries in Africa itself. So it's worth discussing, it's worth seeing which challenges we both have, or we all have, and where we can join efforts. So, I mean, I've listed a few of the challenges. I won't go into this too much, but I mean, it's the standard challenges. We can discuss a bit more on these, and especially we can also discuss in the following discussion. Siovula is going to be discussing about different schools projects that we can do. So it's good to find these challenges, but it's also equally good to discuss how we're going to start tackling these, the projects that we're going to start creating. This is just one example of an idea that the possible idea is to create, and this is what I'd love to also see before 2024, is to create a continent-wide database or website for sharing verified astronomy teaching resources. And this is just something that from people or teachers, educators, even students from all over Africa can access and get access to these verified resource database. And then just to finish up with here, by creating this network, it's hoped that we can share the experience. And I'm sure you found, I especially found over the last couple of days, there's so many wonderful projects that's coming out, and we want to share this wealth of experience. So hopefully by creating this network of, we can do such and encourage groups to start their own projects. And I mean, I just list a few of the projects there, just been hearing along. We can discuss some of these things, but it would be wonderful to see this in all parts of Africa. Okay, so that was just a really, really speedy introduction to, I'm going to leave it up on this slide. That was a really speedy introduction to the NEC network and some of the potential challenges, some of the discussion points. But I'd now like to hear from the rest of the room. Perhaps there's other NEC members in this room who'd like to discuss some of the challenges that they feel, if they can relate to some of the things that I've said. And maybe I can hear from the room, where do you see this, how can we use this network effectively for IAU 2024? Okay, so I bring it over to any questions in the room here. Let's just see. I've managed to, there we go. Maybe I can already turn it over to Shia. If you'd just maybe like to talk a bit about some of the ideas that the OAE or the projects that the OAE has been working on, that would be great to start us off.
There's also a question from Zachariah.
Oh, I've lost my screen, so I can't see any.
Oh yeah, when you share. Sorry. Okay, no worries.
My presentation is just taking over everything.
Hi, can you hear me, Carolina?
Yes.
Okay, great.
So there's a bit of I don't know if you've got any headphones, if you can use that. Okay, we had a question. If we, in the meantime, if we can go to the question, Zakaria, maybe? You've got your hand up?
And you're still muted.
Oh, muted, yes.
Let me just unmute Zakaria. No, still muted. Asked to mute. Okay, Buzani has a question as well.
Okay, Buzani, maybe Buzani in the meantime?
Yes, hi everyone. Just to add on what Sally was saying in terms of the gap in astronomy content for senior levels, I think this is a very good point, because this is what we come across each and every day when we're doing the teacher training in astronomy. The problem is that once our curriculum here in South Africa that contains astronomy, it only ends in grade 9. So when the learners have to proceed into FET, it's very difficult to follow on what they have taught up to grade 9. So these are the challenges that we are facing. But the main problem is that how can we introduce it to the Department of Education? Because these things works better when you communicate it with the Department of Education, so that they can able to revise or to revise their curriculum. But I don't know how they can do that. But Sally, that is a good point that we are facing with. But I don't know how are we going to approach the Department of Education to discuss such things.
Sivu, you have a point?
Yeah, just to follow up on the point raised by Buzani, I also agree, Sally, that I think teacher training is just going to be a vital aspect of our work. And if we inspire the teachers, empower the teachers, naturally it will follow on the learners. And like Buzani said, just to respond to Buzani, I think there are national subject committee meetings and provincial subject meetings. So, I mean, we can attend those and suggest. They always send a call out. Last quarter, there was one for the Western Cape where they called, but this was focused on natural science than on the physical science. But generally, they want to reduce the amount of content that is in the curriculum, because they feel that there's too much currently in the content in physical science and just natural science. So I think currently the strategy is to kind of draw from astronomy, encourage teachers to use astronomy more as a resource, when teaching maths and physical science. So we can, I think our responsibility is to provide the resources that teachers can use, teaching the current physics or mathematics curriculum, but drawing also examples from astronomy. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sivu. I think if you've got a comment to say about that, Bizu, and then someone else had their hand up, they want to go on, but Bizu, in the meantime, Zani?
Oh, no, I think the hand was an old one, but anyway, I can say something again to in terms of inadequate teacher training in astronomy related content. I think we need to put more effort. We are doing a lot in teacher training, but we cannot go all over the country. So we need to put more effort, especially if we can request from the science center people to continue the teacher training in their centers, so that now we can able to cover the scope, especially here in South Africa. I hope also in other countries they can make use of their science centers to make sure that they train teachers in astronomic related content. Thank you.
I think that's very good. Just in addressing one of your earlier comments as well, that we need that link between the educators and kind of government officials. And I think that's also where the NEC can come into play, because they are an official organization. So as soon as we start having these representations, they could almost form that or aid with the links where they have this official backing, if I can say that. So it's definitely something that we need to work on, forming those communication channels and linking the government to the educators themselves. Sorry, Shia can possibly say more on that as well. And other
excuse me, Sally. The 15 minutes on the next is out, but I think it's a nice organic transition now to the schools discussion that will be led by Cyrille. Cyrille, would you like to give Chamiso a chance to say a few things before you take over, or would you like to?
Yes, Carolina, yes.
Okay, great. So Chamiso, you can go ahead anyway, and then Cyrille takes over the leadership of the conversation. Thank you.
We covered everything.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Cyrille. Can you hear me? I'm just trying to make sure that. Okay, great. Thanks, Cyrille. Thank you. So I'm working with the OAE as an astronomy education researcher, and one of the projects that I'm working on is the multilingual glossary for astronomy education concepts for primary and secondary schools, as well as the project of Big Ideas in Astronomy. So the project of Big Ideas Astronomy is more of that astronomy is curriculum all the way to and as Cyrille as to promote the use of astronomy in other subjects. So some of the reasoning skills you use in astronomy, in physics, and be used in mathematics. So with the Big Idea project that we are doing now is that, and also Big Ideas means that the most important idea is that people need to know about astronomy, or what's the most important thing to know about astronomy. So that's sort of like the big idea. So there are about 12 of them, and we're trying to find ways to include these within curriculum across the world. So we are not just focusing on just like different countries, but we're focusing globally on what we can do as an astronomy education community so that we are ensuring equal access to education for all. And one of the things that was mentioned by, sorry, Cyrille, I'm not going to take more of your time, just one more minute. One of the things that was mentioned by, I think it was Lucia, I'm not sure. But in terms of, using the planetarium for education, or seeing the planetarium as an education space, we also want to promote the use of naked eye astronomy, especially for places that do not have access to planetariums and places that do not have access to modern day technologies and telescopes. But just to introduce that kind of sense of naked eye astronomy to our students and to our learners, when like just getting them to understand, just to get them to understand that, it's possible to see the moon during the day and why that happens. So that's what we're trying to promote, that we do have challenges with technology, with finances, but what is it that we can do in terms of ensuring that we still teach us? Yes, I think I'm done. Really, you can take over.
Oh. So I can take over now, ne?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah, okay. I think a number of issues have already been covered by the previous speakers. And my challenge is to say some of the things again in a very interesting way. So colleagues, just I think like Sally and even Kevin on the day before yesterday, outlined that this is a great opportunity for us, hosting the GA in 2024 in terms of developing new relationships and consolidating relationships that we already have. And also in terms of the legacy. And I think when it comes to school, the legacy aspect is critical, because our schools and churches or places of worship in Africa, they form a center of communities. So I think we have to utilize this opportunity to deepen the relationship that we already have, create new partnerships, And, you know, like Sally was repeatedly saying, leave a legacy in terms of materials, in terms of of resources like telescopes, you know, in terms of programs. It would be nice if we can start new programs that do not exist currently, that that may continue even be post the General Assembly. So like MJ said, I thought also in terms of schools program, what has worked nicely with us, especially last year with a conference that we had on transient that was hosted here at SAO, was to have activities before the conference, activities during the conference, and activities after the conference. There may be people who want to come earlier to South Africa, so we can engage those to have activities before the conference and have activities during. Some people will be free at times, so we can have them running activities during the conference and activities beyond post the conference. Like MJ was saying, create opportunities for people. It needs us to fundraise so that we can fund some of the travels and the accommodation. And fortunately, here in South Africa, a lot of organizations are always willing to host scientists, to give talks, to do activities post the conference. I think we also need to look at the language groups here in Africa, mostly here in South Africa, English and the Venezuelan languages. But I think in Africa, we have to cater for French, for Portuguese, you know, for Arabic. So in thinking about school activities, we have to look at the different language groups that we have and also try to cater for the different time zones. And we can do this by having some of the programs recorded. So in thinking about school activities, we're thinking in terms of in-person activities, but also virtual activities. Okay. So basically the objective of the programs may be inspirational, just to inspire learners, stimulate interest in mathematics and science, but also align to the curriculum, you know? And I think we have to cover all the bands, the pre-primary school, the primary school, and the high school, you know? So in thinking about different activities, we have to look at all the different bands, pre-primary, primary, and high school. So what kind of activities can we organize, you know? And what has worked in the past, and I think will work even well, I'm thinking we must not start in exactly 2024. I think after the GA that's going to be held in 2022, I think we must begin our activities then after that GA, leading up to 2024. We can wait, you know, like some of the relationships would have been developed with the different speakers, with the different organizations before, and 2024 will be the culmination. So I'm thinking like, I mean, we can have talks like MJ has said and Sally has indicated, talks and lectures, you know, at various places. And this can be shared also virtually. So we can have in person, but also virtually shared across the continent. We need to have hands-on activities. Here in South Africa, we've got a number of different hands-on workshops that we have developed, but I mean, across the globe, there's various programs that are under the IAU. For instance, the universe awareness. We've got a box that can be shared with different, we have distributed in some countries in 2014. But I mean, it's something that we can raise funds so that we can develop more boxes that can be shared across the continent. But also there's other various hands-on activities, like from the hands-on universe, from Galileo Teachers Workshop. So there's a number of hands-on activities that we can implement across the continent. But also in Africa, I think career programs are very important. We need to have some career programs, even if we have astronomers addressing learners, you know, have postgraduate students also interacting with learners on career prospects. Also, like it has been indicated on the first day of the forum, I mean, there needs to be a focus on girl learners. We do need focus. Girls and women in general in Africa are not well represented in sciences. So we do have focus programs that are focused on girl learners. I mean, like in Africa, there's large areas of rural and underdeveloped areas. We need to cater for those, you know? I mean, our activities cannot only be centralized and focused on urban areas. So we do need to spread our activities to include rural areas. And I think the various regions, like Northern Africa, Western, Eastern, Central, and Southern Africa, we can coordinate different programs that are going to focus on the rural areas as the different regions. One of the things that has been exciting, people have all different kinds of notions about who an astronomer is. So I think that this can have mixed audiences, teachers, learners, and parents, where we have programs where people can interact with, see an astronomer. They can ask questions from the astronomers, that has worked well with us. We can have school visits. I think MJ pointed that out and Sally referred to. Astronomy software activities. What has worked well also is across continents. Have learners in different parts of the world, but working on astronomy software activities. Stargazing sessions. That's a big one. Especially Africa has got lots of nice dark skies, pollution-free dark skies. So, organizing stargazing sessions, linking up with the amateur astronomers across the continent, all right? Access to robotic and remote telescopes. This is another activity that we would organize. We have had an experience here in South Africa making use of the Monet telescope and the Les Cambridge telescope, where school, especially in Sutherland and other parts of South Africa, gain access and make use of that. This is a great opportunity for us to do that. I think when talking about school, we tend to focus on the learners. So like indicated by Sally, and I pointed out, and Buzani also pointed out, I think we also need to focus on the teachers. Because learners pass through, but teachers will always be at the schools. So if we empower the teachers, we have a good chance, of influencing lots of learners. So I think in talking about schools, let us not only focus on the learners, but also try to empower the teachers and linking up with the various offices, and the various projects that already exist. We can do a lot in terms of empowering the teachers. I think that's all I wanted to say. Thanks, colleagues.
Wow, thank you, Cyrilla. I think we've been taking notes absolutely frantically while you gave us all the ideas. What an incredible overview. Thank you so much. But
can you give me
questions? Yes. So
okay,
sorry, who said?
It's Buzani.
Buzani, go ahead. Sorry.
I just want to add on what Sibulo was saying. Sally mentioned that we've got a challenge in a gap of FET in astronomy. I think maybe another idea is to create a lot of astronomy clubs in high schools, especially in rural areas, because the dark skies there are clear, and they can do a lot of exercises, including stargazing, for the high school students to form the astronomy clubs. We know there are schools that have got a science club, but let us focus more on astronomy club so that we promote astronomy to the high school students. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I agree with you, Buzani, there. But I think, when talking about the legacy, it's nice to have structures, so if we have structures like that, even if you are not there, they'll continue to do the activities. So having astronomy clubs at schools, already we do have a network of science clubs, but maybe introducing astronomy clubs and establishing a science club will work very well. And also drawing on the experience of amateur astronomers. Here in South Africa, they build a lot of different telescopes for themselves and for various schools, especially in Johannesburg. And I think we have to make use of that, get them to build telescopes for the schools.
Excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Sibylle, but we're running out of time, and the next topic is amateur astronomers. So it's going to flow very naturally from here. I just wanted to give Ruth a chance to say something, because her hand has been up for quite a while, and then Tembela, and then we're going to move on to Danielle with the amateur astronomy discussion. So Ruth, thank you.
Thank you letting me speak. I'm actually glad that the idea of taking astronomy to African students was taken seriously. And I agree on the actions that were decided to be taken. And now what I want to say was on the students' perspective, like, for example, the availability of books based on astronomy should increase, and it would be really nice if astronomers come and give some inspirational talks to students so that they can be inspired to take interest in astronomy, and also support many and further take. I wish that astronomy book reading clubs, not only offline but online, should be taken and frequent field trips to nearby space stations where students can interact not only with the professional astronomers but as well as amateur astronomers. Then maybe there might be an increase in astronomers in Africa. That was what I was trying to say. And I'm thanking you for giving me this opportunity and your attention.
Well, thank you so very much, Ruth. I think your perspective is unique, being the youngest member among us. And so your voice is very, very important. Thank you so much for that. Tambela.
Hi, everyone. My point is to perhaps emphasize what has been said before regarding translation. But I think, drawing from what AFAS has already been doing regarding translations, I think what we might need to work towards is having communities of practice, because at the moment it is done on an ad hoc, like the translation is done on an ad hoc basis. There's nothing that is done. We don't have communities of practice, but when we have communities of practice, then translation flows seamlessly, and also because many astronomy departments are within universities, and each university in South Africa has a language center. If we were to have all these people listed somewhere, and I think because we have AFAS, we could have all these communities of practice there, so that whenever there is a need for translation, then we can contact those people. And another thing is, I've also noticed with the translation that we may speak the same language, but in the way we write it and in the way we understand it, it's completely different. So the communities of practice will also have won't necessarily regulate the way we translate, but it will also give sort of guidance, because through translation, you build a glossary of words. And so you go back to the glossary of words instead of recreating the words, or instead of speaking, or instead of writing in colloquial language based on your location. And the simplest example was Zolile, myself, and Zambonga were translating a document, and in that document we were all struggling to pinpoint what Ikwezi is, which is Venice. And so there was a debate around the whole thing. And so if we were to have communities of practice, then we would understand that, okay, so when we're talking about Venice, we're talking about Venice in this context, not in this context. So if we are to translate, I would like us to look into translation as a formal practice, not as a thing we do because we want to look and seem like we're doing something good for society. That's it.
Great, thank you so much, Tambela. I think that's a very important point, and it's well made. So I'm sorry, Daniel, that this is running a little bit late now, but I think the transition into the role of amateur astronomers now is really quite natural. And so, Daniel, please take it away.
Thanks, Carolina. Yeah, I think that I wanted it to be more of a discussion, and it's great that the discussion has already started. So in this current iteration of myself, I'm representing as the vice president of the incoming vice president of the Astronomical Society of Southern Africa. Chris Stewart is here too, and he's the president. And I think that, but I'd like to talk beyond that. ASA's been around for 100 years next year. There's a huge amount of of value in that community. There's a huge amount of experience and interest and enthusiasm. And I think that in the context of the GA and in Africa in general, I think that it is something which we really, really need to make use of. I think that with the GA being a get together of professional astronomers, looking at 3,500 professional astronomers, it's often forgotten that there is a huge community of amateur astronomers, not just in South Africa but around the world, and something which we would like to grow in Africa. So I think that the question that I have and the proposal I'd like to make is, how do we grow the amateur astronomy community, but in line, not in parallel with the professional astronomy community, but in collaboration. We've seen, we actually had a press release yesterday with a paper where there was a huge contribution from amateur astronomers. So we've seen the research aspect of introducing amateur astronomers and working with them. And ASA and the various centers of ASA run a lot of outreach events, but often these are not in collaboration with the national facilities or the Department of Science and Innovation. They have their own fundraising, they have their own structures, and that separation basically is dividing what really should be together. So in terms of South Africa, I'm actively trying to bridge this gap, enable the amateur astronomers to do their work, and contribute to the outreach efforts as well as the science efforts. But I think that that's something which we need to spread across the whole continent, and I think that we can lead that from ASA, and definitely there are a lot of lessons learned and good practices which we can share. But it's I would say it's just something we need to try and formalize. A real strong relationship between the professional astronomers and the amateurs.
Okay, that's an interesting take, to actually grow the community of amateurs. I see we have a question from Timothy.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, please, I have a question for the last presenter. When we are talking about amateur astronomers, right? It's a kind of limited. When you're talking about amateur astronomers, can we have people that didn't study anything related to physics or astronomy in that group? It's a kind of question.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's the point, is that, we have people who are interested in astronomy, and they have some knowledge. It can just be, they don't have to have professional training. If they have a telescope, wonderful. But just having somebody who's interested in astronomy, sharing that with their community is incredibly powerful. It doesn't necessarily need to come from professional astronomers all the time. I think that, something I feel very strongly is we spend a lot of time trying to teach astronomy and make sure that we put a lot of effort into making sure our content and our teachings are scientifically correct, and that is great. But I think that the first step in terms of getting people into astronomy is just getting them excited about it, and we don't necessarily need to scare them off with maths and physics. We just need to get them through that door, just looking up at the stars and appreciating them.
All right, thank you very much. I don't know if maybe there is a link or a site, maybe your site where people can join, because actually in Nigeria, we have people that would love to join your team or join your forum, or you can mentor, you can tutor. So I don't know if there is a website where we can,
Sure, I'll stick the Astro website up and we can get in touch.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Timothy. I think it's very important that we broaden the scope here beyond South Africa, because the event may be centered on Cape Town, but the vision was always to make this an African event. So thank you so much for that intervention, Timothy. I see, Ruth, is your hand an old hand or is it a new hand, Ruth? Okay, I guess it's an old hand. So then, Brett, your hand is up as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out too, with what Daniel was saying, that that amateur astronomers can often be better at kind of the teaching side of it or the outreach side of it. Apologies for my daughter's egg. But then professional astronomers, just because they don't do it as a job, they do it as a passion. So when they're teaching and when they're kind of explaining things to people, that love for astronomy really comes across. And it's important to get that, especially to kids at a young age, to kind of see how fun it is, how accessible it is, how easy it is. Yeah, I just wanted to add that part.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Brett. It's a good point, and it's lovely to hear your daughter in the background. I see Neeraj has posted a link to the latest database of all amateur astronomy groups in Africa. Neeraj, maybe you want to say a word or two about this database and about the map, so that maybe some people who are in this conversation, in this discussion today, are actually close by to an amateur association that they may not even necessarily know. And I see, Susan, your video is on. Would you like to intervene as well?
Yeah, so let me just quickly say, I posted two links on the chat. The second link is to the website, IFA's website for amateur astronomy clubs. So what we did was to circulate a form in English, French, Portuguese, and Arabic for amateur astronomy associations to fill up, so that they can get into the database. And we have around 70 odd such entries so far. The map, which is linked to the website, shows, among other things, amateur astronomy clubs, but also shows you meteor craters, meteorite samples, and observatories. If you click on any location near you, for example, on the blue markers, which is the amateur astronomy clubs, it tells you how to get in touch with them, right? Phone number, Facebook page, Twitter account, email address, what have you. So that the idea of this map is that it should be easy for people, let's say in a city or even small towns, to find out where the nearest astronomy club is and to get in touch with them and be a part of them from wherever they are. And the PDF file is also the same information put together in text. But this form is always open. And therefore, if there are new clubs which come up or clubs which haven't known about this, find out about this, please do encourage them to enter their data in this form. And roughly every 2-3 months, we will update the PDF and the map.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much. So I see that there's not that many questions right now, and this resource, this map, and this list of amateur clubs it's an incredible resource. So I really recommend that you go and look at that. And Moses sends a nice suggestion to link the clubs to clubs formed in schools and universities. That would really strengthen school clubs. That's a really, really nice idea. Thank you, Moses. So we're going to catch up a little bit on the time. The next session that we have is a session about astrotourism that Anthony from SAO will lead. So Anthony, the floor is yours. And I noticed earlier that Sonal is here as well. So it would be great to hear from Sonal as well. So Anthony, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Carolina. You're giving me the difficult task now of jumping from education to tourism now. But nevertheless, I've prepared something. Can I share my slide?
Yes, by all means.
Can you see that?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so my name is Anthony, and I'm from the South African Astronomical Observatory. The tourism industry has been quite hard hit, so I've prepared something to start the conversation. So my storyline would be some opening remarks, the stage where tourism enterprises play, the cast, the drama in itself, the empty house, learning new words, the mentor, the teacher, the poster revelation, the house of the socially distant, and then eventually the show must go on. So if we start this off with some opening remarks, we all know that astronomy is a science that is cutting edge. And even if you are blank on the science itself, it draws interest naturally. Astronomy also contains, people's stories above the heavens and the uncertainty of destiny and the destiny of the mankind. And astronomy is a key component of the lure of destinations. Even though there are some other tourism attractions and access, amenities, awareness and trading in itself that must be discussed. And I make the point here that just like a star is, can die, so is the tourism market and the enterprises that benefited from it, like we experienced the past few months. But also with every closure, there's an opportunity there. It's all about evolution and transformation. It's an every drama of despair of hope, opportunity and failure, and finding new ways to survive and grow and making a difference in this space. And there's a need for new thinking on how we can better chase the sun. So the stage where enterprises play, it's normally the heritage sites, national parks, nature reserves, observatories and planetariums, rivers for adventure tourism, stars, diamonds, historical sites. I've mentioned just a few things here just to get the mind going of naturally where the tourism space would reside in. And the cast that you typically find associated would be your tour operators, your astronomers, amateur astronomers, tour guides, accommodation establishments, and I've made the example there of the Astro stays, which I'm sure will reflect on, food stall owners, African cuisine ideas, planetariums, conference facilities, incentive experiences, event organizers, museums, artists, storytellers, communities, and travel agents. Important stakeholders in the cast of a tourism space. Now, we're all familiar with the drama that happened. So we all had national lockdowns, fear struck when we had these lockdowns. Visitors were too scared to travel. Some were not allowed to travel. We were even on the red list. Communities are scared of visitors. The business plans that was pre-COVID before the lockdowns, some of them don't even hold any true anymore. People are depressed. People are asking questions out of anxiety. How long will this last? What will change? What will be lost? Who will survive? Is there anything to be differently? And where will help eventually come from? So this has led over the couple of months to the empty house syndrome, with the restrictions that has been put on people that can't move, restaurants and clubs, the doors were locked down, foreign visitors were not allowed into the country. People were anxious about their jobs and uncertainty around their job opportunities. Big business plans for enterprises that might have had developmental plans to expand needed to be put on hold. Panic struck amongst the business community in the tourism space. Governments are no longer able to assist in bailing out big time. There were hardly any rooms sold, hardly any tours the last couple of months, and no big events were allowed. So the industry will ultimately never be the same again. The show stopped when COVID struck and the house became empty, or did it really become empty? So we have to inculcate a new culture of learning. So with every crisis, there's new opportunity, but we need to learn a few new words. It's like with every veld fire, there's always some greens coming back to that. So the big lessons of the COVID pandemic is to slow down in the tourism space, rethink space and connection, think more local, let go of the winner takes it all syndrome, where the cake is big enough for everybody to share. And we need to develop this culture of sharing. Bling is not the best. What you thought of the biggest and the most expensive part of what you could have is no longer the best. Know thy neighbor better, work with what you have. And we must be more creative to inspire ourselves, others, and the potential client that might be coming in this new after post-COVID. New beginnings are excited and wonderful. We must embrace it, and we must follow the sun and not the crowds. So with the mentor and the teacher, this is the space that I really want to stand still, because here we need to look more specifically at how do we connect space and connection and think local, and how do we interpret local, and that is in a sense for us, where's the best cook, where's the best musician, where's the best painter, where's the best crafter, where's the best historian or the best storyteller, where's the best poet, the best dancers, and how can we make all of them use in a digital platform in an event like we have in 2024. We have to reinterpret the experience. Personal knowledge we should air. What do we offer? The observatories that we are connecting with throughout Africa, how do we know our product? What is there to offer? What do we offer with that product? Shall we swap the combi, for instance, like for the donkey cart, where has a historical value? Shall we talk? Shall we bike? Township tours? Shall we drum while we are sitting around the fire, or even do some stargazing? And how do we eventually package this to have an all-inclusive experience for our visitor? Belonging with a purpose, be trusted and cherished by communities, be part of tourism routes. So people will be looking for something that they can have personal knowledge from, get that from the visitor or the community, and how that is structured and packaged. Do they belong to any association, any guest house associations, for instance? Cooperate, don't compete. We should all cooperate. We should not compete with one another. And eventually, how we package what we have locally available should all add value to the overall experience of the visitors that we might get in 2024. We should have with what we work, or we should work with what we have. We should not be ashamed of what we have. Bling is not the best. People are looking for these raw, interesting, creative, authentic, at the right price experiences. And we should be flexible. We're willing to offer an hour, a morning, or session, or give the client what they want, and be eventually safe with a pandemic upon us. The poster revolution. Business cards, brochures, flyers are very much yesterday. We should be savvy with social media. We should build personal networks. We should cooperate with Roots, Organized Tourism, and Northern Cape Tourism Association, because the observatory in South Africa, in Sutherland, is part of that. We are our own moving billboards these days, and we should build a reputation of a magnet. So the reputation around observatories is already built, and that should be a magnet that we should magnify and use as a drawing card. We all know that tourism is a happy hug business. We are no longer allowed to do that because of the pandemic. Tourism hide behind the masks. We take breaks to break free. Now we are constantly reminded of death, danger, and misery with this pandemic. And we must be socially distanced. We risk losing the ambiance of tourism. Socially distanced is being softly disconnected in reality, if you think about it. So who best can overcome that challenge of being socially distanced, and the health protocols will eventually attract the visitor to their area. But the show must go on. So the king is dead, long live the king. What happened before COVID is dead, and may they live long. Tourism will never be the same, but it must be inspired by this. Local is the new gold. We are not alone. Cooperation is the fuel for success and sustainability. We should always try to innovate, create legacies, and present our experiences to change the tourist for the better. I put up this slide here to tell a story of this. This was one of the eldest persons in Sutherland, Thomas Klute, who passed on at the age of 106 years. And he shared with the observatory the story of how they interpreted back in the day as kids, shooting stars, meteors. And he was sharing the story that their grandparents and parents will tell them whenever there was a shooting star, that they should run towards it, pick it up and throw it back into the night sky as to preserve it for generations to come. And we have used that story to make one of the attraction points in this visitor center at the observatory in Sutherland. So that's how one way that you can use and put a magnification on the local culture and the local environment for tourists to go and experience what happened in a local environment. So I thought I'll share this with you just to start the conversation off around astrotourism. And yeah, I'm open to any input at this point. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much, Anthony. I think this was thank you for sharing your experiences and your insights. And I think anyone across the continent who may want to grow or set up some astrotourism is going to gain a lot from what you just said. And yeah, and thank you for emphasizing also that, you know, local is gold and you know, bling is good, but people are looking for authenticity. So that's, yeah, very, very, very inspiring. Thank you so much. I don't know if there are any questions now. There are, well, I think everybody will probably want to see everyone's slides. So if you guys could email me the slides, then I will, well, or Kevin, he will make those available to the community. But yeah, thank you so much for that. I don't know if
sorry,
Kevin,
just to say, sorry, can you also put it on the Slack? There's an outreach section on the Slack as well.
Oh yes, perfect. Okay, thank you so much for that. Yeah, so I see that Sonal isn't here, so it would have been nice to hear a little bit from her as well, how they really have built local and tourism together. But that's the Astrostays model. But I think we can share some information and some links for that. But I'd like to hear a little bit from the community. I see Emeka has your hand up. Emeka? I think you're still muted.
Can you hear
Now
me?
we can hear you. Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Anthony, for the presentation. I want to say for some time now, we've been trying to archive some of the astroarchaeological sites, because down here in this part of the world, for instance, in Nigeria here, already people have concepts of astronomy. For instance, there's a place we visited some time ago. The locals there, after carbon dating the materials they have there, it was dated back to about 4,000 years ago. Now there, they have a system of monitoring the movement of the moon and the conjunction between Venus and the moon. So we've been trying to identify some of those sites and see how we can archive them. Now, in the context of astrotourism, I want to ask, now looking at the list of the items there, some of these locations are located in remote areas where you may not even necessarily get good access roads and internet. How do one project those areas so that it will be accessible to tourists? Hello?
Anthony, are you able to answer that?
I don't know if I have a straight answer for that. What we do in South Africa is we collaborate with quite a number of associations across board that assist us in that regard. So especially the observatory in South Africa, in Sutherland, is part of what we call the Northern Cape province of South Africa. So we have a Northern Cape Tourism Authority that is responsible for all marketing and branding the province with all its tourism attractions in itself. And they developed the strategy overall for all the destinations within the province. So that assists us greatly as a remote, because Sutherland is also a very remote part. We're part of a desert in the Karoo. So that assists us very, very greatly as we have this provincial structure that's part of a national structure, the National Department of Tourism, that assists in branding South Africa and then branding the province as per se. So I don't know, maybe it will be useful to tap into some of the regional or provincial or some of the associations around that part of Africa and see how they can assist in branding the region where these resources are very limited.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. I see Susan, you have your hand up.
It was just wonderful to hear the presentation about astrotourism. I just want to emphasize that I come from, I run a company called the Traveling Telescope, and we actually, one of our key things is astrotourism in an effort to keep our project sustainable. So where these lodges are, I live in Kenya, we're right at the equator, which is a nice thing. So we have all the sky. But what we've seen over the years, we've been running this for 7 years, is now we're getting, to be able to visit schools through the projects of astrotourism. So most of these lodges are willing, they are in an area where there are rural schools, dark and polluted skies, and they want to support the education of the school. So that's a very nice way to keep your project sustainable through astrotourism. We are behind in terms of the science of astronomy as a continent in comparison to other continents, but we have the beauty of the night sky. And that is something we can also bring in our people to appreciate. So in Kenya, we've gotten so many people to appreciate astronomy because of the night sky, and not just for schools or tourists, but just the general population is getting to appreciate the country more because of astrotourism. We have something to showcase to the rest of the world who already come here for wildlife or the landscapes and the culture. And then also the local communities where these dark skies are and the lodges have beautiful star knowledge, cultural star knowledge, which they're able to bring in. Right behind me there, you can see a Kenyan Maasai with elephants looking through the telescope. And it's such a nice thing that astrotourism is starting to gain its place in the astronomy world. I've just lacked the right word there, but this is interesting to hear.
Yeah, thank you for that, Susan. This is really interesting. So Susan has managed to run a successful company in Kenya for several years now, which is really good. And it's good to hear that you're still going in spite of the pandemic and everything. So yeah.
Just one quick thing to say is that our initial funding came from the International Astronomical Union and through the Office of Astronomy for Development. But it was the idea of having it sustainable and looking for the local buy-in. What do we have that is untapped that we can use to keep our project going? And then just the last thing is, this year in January, we had Madonna look through our telescope. Madonna, like imagine, look through our telescope and what that meant for us, the same telescope that the really poor kids in Kenya and Tanzania get to look through. So that is just something I wanted to bring up. Thanks, Carolina, and thanks, Anthony.
Wow, thank you, Susan. That's wow. That's actually a really good, even an idea for the GA to try to get celebrities to be motivated to take part somehow. That's fantastic. I hope you took lots of pictures.
Often difficult to take pictures. We have a picture, but it's very hard to prove to people that that's Madonna because it's in the dark. but I'll share it with you.
Thank you so much. Okay, I see there's not many more questions, but a lot of comments in the chat about how all of these connect beautifully between tourism and the value of tourism and amateurs and education. I think there's we're looking at a spectrum of activities that isn't siloed here, because amateurs like going to schools, and some of them will run their own astrotourism thing. Sometimes astrotourism partners up with professional organizations like in Sutherland in South Africa and so on. So I think we have very nice range of different models of collaborations that have emerged from this conversation that exists already and that can be replicated, or new ideas. So this is really, really valuable. Thank you so very much, Susan. I see you also say that it's a wonderful way to get the government interested in astronomy through tourism. So that's also another value add that's really quite important. And I think ultimately we are all people. So we are all enjoying experiences like tourism and things. So I think this really touches to the heart of who we are. So in the program, we are supposed to have an industry discussion now. So going from astrotourism to sort of other aspects of the private sector and possible industry collaborations and things. And that discussion was going to be led by Anton Binneman from the South African Radio Astronomy Observatory. I don't think Anton is with us. So what I'll do is maybe I'll just mention a few of the reasons why I wanted Anton to talk about this. But I think sadly we won't benefit from his wisdom today. But never mind. Let's just the reason we wanted him to come and talk about links with industry is to look at links with industry that go beyond, say, tourism or even private education and so on, and to look at the collaborations, the technological spin-offs, and even simply the fact of having technology skills within astronomy, helping with other topics and problem solving. And the South African Radio Astronomy Observatory, I think also with the South African Astronomical Observatory, have sort of pooled together their engineering resources when the pandemic hit to design a CPAP ventilator for COVID-19 patients. And I think that story is a really, really great story to see that, the skills and the skill set and the technical skills and the techniques, such as the engineering techniques and possibly the systems engineering and so on, those approaches that are used to develop professional astronomy tools, cutting edge telescope and so on, can also be applied to other issues. And I think the story of astronomers building ventilators and engineers building a ventilator is a really, really cool story that I think will inspire many. Unfortunately, Anton isn't here, so I don't want to go and say things that I'm not 100% sure of. So let's rather move on to the next topic of discussion, which is the wild ideas. We're just 5 minutes ahead, and if anything, we'll just finish a little bit early, and I think that's all right. So I think this conversation so far has really shown how wide and how broad the scope is of communications, education, and outreach, how it goes from, reaching out to underserved children to having celebrities looking through telescopes. It's just, the range is really, really broad. And so I really would like to leave all of you here with a feeling of being part of this and owning your little bit and your little corner of this great area, and that every single one of you feels that you can contribute in your own way to making, to use the GA to promote education, outreach, communications, awareness, skills development, impactful initiatives, because we're now looking at 3 years, but also we'll be looking at the future. So in terms of wild ideas, I mentioned earlier that we don't have somebody yet representing the arts and culture area. And I think if this is something that we really would like to have, there are a lot of astronomers who are, you know, amateur artists as well, or have a very strong interest in art. I think we all have an appreciation for art and culture and its inspirational aspects and music and so on. So this is just one of the areas that is a little bit not necessarily the key of previous General Assemblies, but I think we have such an incredible diversity and such a beautiful breadth of cultures across this continent. So how can we bring Africa to the GA, you know, in all that Africa is? And I would like to launch the conversation with that. And really, this is not me presenting something. This is really to have you throw in whatever wild ideas you may have, you know, even, you know, there are no bad ideas, you know. So please go ahead. I see Sarah, your hand is up. So please go ahead. Start us off.
Okay, thanks. It's not really a terribly wild idea, actually, and it's been done before, but I just thought it was a nice way to bring, like you said, bring Africa to the GA, which is just those sort of competitions. And I know loads of other people have done them, like art competitions and photography competitions. I mean, for kids, well, it could be all ages. You can have different levels. So if it's, let's say, if it's astrophotography, I think Jamal actually had this idea. So astrophotography, and there could be different categories, but one of the categories could be, you know, a photograph of the night sky, but over something famous in your country. So, you know, somebody might do the crescent moon over our Black Star Square or something, and someone else is, you know, Venus rising over the pyramids or something. And then, so you can imagine if you had a whole exhibition of the winners, you're seeing sites from all different countries. And similarly for an art competition, you know, obviously that's also great for kids. I don't know, they can draw or paint something. What does astronomy mean to you in your country, or something like that? So there's those things. I said they're not really, it's not original, but actually I think they work really nicely. And then I just thought of something. I think when some months ago, when there was some other discussion, actually I think Niruj had some idea of something like the most people, was it watching a big screen or something? But I kind of thought a similar thing, or maybe, you know, extend it. You could do a Guinness Book of Records, the most number of people looking through telescopes watching the moon or something, because I think I read somewhere that, I don't know if it's one of the 100 hours of astronomy or something, that there was a Guinness Book of Records of the most numbers of people looking through telescopes. I think maybe in one region or in one country.
Yeah,
I don't think it's the whole world.
Mexico, they had the biggest star party ever, I think, in Mexico.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe we could do something like that and break the record.
That's a good idea. Thank you. I see Elizabeth. You had your hand up.
Yes. I'm not sure if it ties in like directly with the particular question you asked, but I see that Doreen or Hudson from the Space Technology Agency in Uganda are not in this group. They're probably in the other group, but I just wanted to mention something that they're doing in Uganda, and I got the opportunity to take part in it when I was home at the beginning of this year. I'm from Uganda originally, but I'm now in South Africa. So it is to give the refugee communities the opportunity to tell their story. You know, like we know the story of the crocodile that swallows the sun, because these stories, we've seen them over and over. Say, for example, in the museum at SAO, because the host communities, should I say, we have platforms to tell our stories. So let's say South African stories are known because there's been a platform for them to tell their stories, but the refugee communities, how are they going to tell their stories? Because they are from war-torn areas, and the heritage, the heritage of their cultural astronomy is being lost as years go by. And so what what they are doing in Uganda is to document, to go into the refugee communities and document their heritage, to take down their stories, the folk stories, the astronomy of these communities, so that they are able to tell their stories and archive this knowledge. So I think it would really be nice if maybe like somehow, I don't know how, these communities are given also a platform to tell their stories, because just because they are from war-torn countries doesn't mean they don't have a part to play in this. And also it would be really nice, you know, to know that there's also knowledge to be learned from these communities, and their knowledge is worth keeping and worth showcasing. So yeah.
Thank you, Elizabeth. That's it's very inspiring, and I think it's a very beautiful idea. And I think, interestingly, South Africa is one of like it's a fairly common destination for refugees from Africa, and so I think we in terms of organization, we probably don't have to look very far in Cape Town to find people who can be part of that, and that would be beautiful. And then also, you know, all across the continent, and maybe link back also to home countries. I think that would be beautiful. So I have the following hands in the following order. I have first Sally, then Niruj, then Tembela, and then Sirius, who I don't know who is hiding behind Sirius, but it's a very bright star. So. Oh, it's you, Jamal. Okay, so Sally, please go ahead first.
Yes, so I've got a bit of a possibly strange idea. I've noticed at Kirstenbosch, and I'm just posting a link at the moment, they've got a very unusual exhibition. It's an augmented reality contemporary art exhibition. I'm posting the link to it here. And I thought this might be quite an interesting idea to have an astronomy themed one during the 2 weeks of the GA. But the idea is to put the facilities we have in Africa in unusual places. So maybe we could combine or join with other tourist agencies across Cape Town or South Africa or Africa, and then have these take our astronomy facilities to these different places and have this augmented reality idea to it. This could also play into the flagship project potentially. So at our different hubs across Africa, we could have this augmented reality to feature. But I think this is just throwing out an idea here. Yeah.
That's lovely. And it could even possibly complement the idea of the competition and astrophotography and things.
Yes,
it's really
exactly.
lovely. Yeah. Neeraj.
Yeah. So this is something that's been done before in many countries, of course, but I was wondering whether it will be good to record old cultural songs about the sky from different parts of Africa and make it into an album or something.
Oh,
and
nice.
then and then if we sell it, then the money raised can go back to the artists in the communities who sang it and stuff like that.
Very, very nice. Thank you. I've made a note of that. Jamal. Oh no, first Tembela. Sorry, Tembela.
No, Jamal can go first. So I have well, it's not a wild idea, but it's something that I've thought of for quite some time. We in Sutherland, we have a community development center where all these little kids go, and we've had a lot of art activities and all of that. But what we haven't had, and tying into what Liz was saying, is a writing or an essay writing competition where kids could write stories about what astronomy means for them as kids who are growing up in a country that has a proliferation of a lot of telescopes, and also tying into what they learn towards the end of the year, which is Earth and Beyond. It would be interesting to get a perspective of how they think of astronomy in the country and how they see themselves in a country that has invested so much in astronomy. That's one. And the second one, which has been done a lot of times by tourism organizations, but not to the extent of inviting ordinary people who are running podcasts. So tourism offices would usually have educationals that are aimed at media people and marketing people. But in this case, there is a particular podcast that I really, really enjoy, which is run by a South African. It's called Chika Travel. And they go to different places and experience them in the way that any normal tourist would. And they give honest reviews about the different places that they visit. And of course, some of the people who are invited to be interviewed in this podcast are interested in high-end tourism. Others are interested. It's a variety of markets within the same podcast. So going back to what Anthony was saying, talking about redefining tourism in order for us to, in order for the tourism market to sustain itself, it would be interesting to invite those people who are in the podcast and throw it out there and say, if you are interested in edutourism, this is open, and we would like to get your honest review of what you think of astronomy. Either you invite them at to go to Sutherland or to go to other parts of the Northern Cape, or even invite them to an event, to these different events that you are intending to host within in the lead up to the GA, because all the different places will have places of accommodation, places of interest, but in the midst of that, there's also astronomy. So it would be interesting to see how they would present the story. Would astronomy be the center of the story, or would astronomy be at the periphery of the story? That's it. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Tembela. It's a very, very good idea. Podcasts at all, and also podcasts like traveling podcasts, and possibly even podcasts in other topics or markets is a really, really good idea. Thank you so much for that. Yes, Jamal.
Yes, hello everybody. I've been low-key in the background because I'm actually at both meetings at the same time, and so it's quite hard to intervene. But indeed, I've been following all the good idea. Actually, I have a small classical, old-fashioned perhaps idea, not really a wild one that you are looking for. It's about something which I've not heard much about it. In fact, not at all. It seems is citizen science. Citizen science for the amateurs, the way of bridging both worlds. I mean, science, pure science, and science at the level of amateurs. So I think that Africa is pretty backward in the sense of we are not getting into citizen science enough. There's great projects which can be done from home and from quite simply. And I believe that we should pay more attention to the citizen science component. Activities for our people, and the way again to connect with the science things. And I just make a quick announcement. In fact, the 20th of this month, AFAS will be organizing, and Niruj and Sarah are in the loop in that. A Zoom meeting on the various citizen science projects by their leaders, the Astrometrica, the Vasco, and also the from NASA, the Planetarium initiative. So stay tuned in that things. And again, please pay attention to the way that we can get amateurs and general community connected to science through these wonderful opportunities which are offered by various citizen science projects. And again, will be hopefully on the 20th, we'll make an announcement on the way we do it, and possibly it can reach out in 2024, where Africa will be more connected to the citizen science projects which are taking place worldwide, but which Africa seems to be has yet to come to the bandwagon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for bringing that up, Jamal. That's right. We haven't spoken about that yet, and citizen science has a big role to play. So I make a big note of that we must absolutely not forget. And if you could send us details about that event, we'll disseminate that as well.
Okay.
Thank you. And next comes Niruj, and then Lucia.
Yeah. So this is something I think brought up in some meeting before, but I like the idea a lot, even though it's mine, so I got to say it again. Why can we organize a huge popular public talk on astronomy at the Green Park Stadium with the images put up on this massive screen and invite the entire Cape Town to come for it.
Wow. Yes. That's the sort of wild ideas that we should have. Great. Okay. Definitely made a note of that, using big screens and all that. Fantastic. Lucia.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, well, first, we already mentioned about this portal to connect the different station in Africa, maybe, or having these crazy artists to do it for us, you know, and coming and share their technology there. It would be nice to have one. That could be a very wild idea because I have no idea how you can set up that. Another thing that I was thinking to connect the different hubs and maybe, you know, engage with the schools as well, is a project that I was involved many years ago now, that is the Global Science Opera, that I'm gonna link now in the chat in a moment. So the idea is that basically you have a network of scientists and artists that work together and write an opera, a single opera, that then is performed by different, you know, group of students, companies, or whatever, you know, all around the world, really. And that is actually a nice, I mean, I've been participating in this effort when I was in the UK, and we had a school, they were, I can't remember the grade, but, you know, primary school children, and they were performing and they were super excited to be then connected with all the rest of the network, and they were watching these, and we could stream it during the event, for example. So having something similar, you know, maybe ask to the Global Science Opera Network to help us out, that could also be done.
That's a really great idea, Lucia. Thank you very much. One of the things that one idea that we sort of toyed with a little bit was, you know, in recognition with the incredible artistic and creative talent there is in, well, in and around Cape Town, we know, but other, like everywhere in Africa, was to maybe see if we could maybe sort of commission an album, you know, local, like if showcasing, you know, local modern music, you know, so have a, I don't know, local hip hop artist in Cape Town, and have musicians and artists create songs about, you know, anything connected, not necessarily, you know, conveying scientific information about astronomy, but just, you know, what they find inspiring, and really try to stimulate the creation and, well, stimulate the creative minds of our communities and offer them a space or a stage at the GA to broadcast and really connect the science we do with the very emotional experiences that astronomy brings about. So this is really, yes, the Villa Hip Hop thing, yes. No, I've mentioned this to you before, and oh wow, Nadeem did something like that with a hip hop artist from Joburg. Well, there we go. This idea seems to have quite a lot of enthusiasm, so I'm going to put that down as a good idea. Another thing that we have sort of considered, and this is more in the sort of connecting the meeting across Africa, is to try to build a space in, whether it is, you know, Gather Town or Second Life or whichever platform is popular in 2024, that sort of creates a virtual space that isn't just lost in the ether of the internet, but is something that we can come to and gather in, and have participants who aren't physically in the meeting be able to have, say, one-on-one chats with people who are physically in the meeting. So have, you know, not just you know, a hybrid meeting, but actually have a space in the cyber world where people could come. That's another idea. Oh, I see the links. Oh, Jive Media did that. Okay, we're definitely going to look at that. And maybe Jive Media can work with us on this. Maybe they can facilitate that. We don't know. Any other wild ideas? Well, do we see people walk around? If we have a model of the conference venue in the virtual space and have people walk around in the virtual space, be able to ping someone walking in physically in the corridor to have a one-on-one chat, you know, and completely bridging that, and maybe having either just a sort of a cell phone device connection, but even possibly even a VR headset to connect with the people who are taking part virtually. Anyway, we're allowed to dream big and dream wild. Any other ideas? Ah, yes, Matipa.
Hi, thanks, Carolina. Yes, I think on the arts and heritage and these wild ideas that we're getting, they're also wonderful. And then what just came to mind was spoken word. So I think in terms of like putting together like some arts and culture content as well, spoken word is really something that we can tap into. And so get like maybe local poets to put together like poetry or some sort of spoken word, especially on the topic of maybe like astronomy or space sciences, or how to combine it with heritage and culture and maybe folklore as well. So I think that might also be like an avenue to really look into. I know the Iziko Museum has done quite a few events with artists, especially like poets. So that would be quite interesting to have maybe even here at the Planetarium or in the Iziko South African museums. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you. That's a really, really good idea. Spoken word can also be done in different languages, and we could and we could showcase, you know, spoken word in many different African languages. So I think what really sort of emerges from this is that what we are all sort of concerned with, whether it's from the arts or from the science in astronomy, is really our place in the universe, how we make sense of the universe around us, you know, and our heritage is how do we forge identities by being in this universe? How do we create that? And I think this is a very, very cool topic. And I think if we show and demonstrate a true, you know, openness and try to build bridges between science and the rest of our humanity, I think especially in these times of doubting science and all of that, I think would be very, very precious and beautiful. So I'm leaving this conversation extremely inspired. We now have one more topic, which is a Pan-African coordination for this. And then the last 5 minutes is going to be for consolidation, but I don't think there's need for that, because I think we've had very useful conversation. We have prolific notes. I think I need to do the consolidation during our break and then feedback later. But we have written notes, we have a recording, so all of that is good. So let's spend the last of our session talking about Pan-African coordination and collaboration. And that discussion will be led by Niruj. So Niruj, please take over.
Yeah, thanks, Karina. So I won't have much to say. I think this is a topic which I think it's best where we all of us chip in and lend our voices. I think most of us wear multiple hats and belong to multiple organizations, be the NOCs or the roads or NAICs or Planetarium, APA, and so on. And we see each other the same at different meetings all the time. But then, which is a good thing, because then there's a lot of symbiosis between various topics. But also it also means that we need a much larger set of people in various countries to come together for this, and we need to expand our base of volunteers and astronomy enthusiasts a lot, right? So that's one. And so how do you do that is one question. The other question is, which again, which was mentioned yesterday, is that the many countries in Africa which do not have a presence in any of the astronomy contexts, right? And we need to make a really conscious effort for this GA to try and get them involved in some form, not necessarily in the GA, but get them involved with the larger astronomy community in Africa, right? And there are some countries which don't have a NIAC or NOC or a road or astronomy in the departments or a telescope and so on. And I think we need to have a strategy, especially tailored to those to getting them into the fold in some sense. Another thing is Pan-Africa doesn't always have to mean all of Africa at a given time. There are many regional connections between various countries which are next to each other, and Pan-African could also mean regional cooperation, regional collaboration, especially if you share the same language, and which all leads to the GA, right? But then you kind of have events or activities or collaborations between adjoining countries and things. So that's also something we could talk about. But I'll just stop it there. Stop it at that, and just let people pitch in with their ideas and comments.
Sure, I don't see any hands up. I think it's been a fairly intense session, and we're coming up to 3 hours. So I completely understand. We are what stands between most people here and lunch. The reason we wanted to have Pan-African coordination as a discussion topic is because we have seen and we hear from the ideas that a lot of people are doing excellent things. And to echo what MJ said in the Science Center discussion and presentation is that there are platforms. There are platforms between the science centers. There's the APA. There's the NAICS network and so on. And we really want to mobilize and to sort of visibly and transparently mobilize these networks so that one network sees that the other network is also mobilized and so on, because we really want to build up the GA is not, we don't want to do this as a service to the GA. We want this GA to be the opportunity to enthuse and mobilize and create things that benefit the people of Africa. So that's really the vision here. And we really want this to be Pan-African, obviously, because it's physically located in Cape Town. It's quite South Africa heavy, but I really appreciate the contributions from everyone who isn't South African and who is not in South Africa to this conversation. I see Lucia, your hand is up.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to comment on, as you said, I mean, we do have this network, and I really encourage everyone to use this network and to foster the dialogue, locally, and then try to connect through the existing, the APA, AFAS, all these people that are here to hear you and help you out to foster these aspects. Also, from the planetarium perspective, I just wanted to mention that the IPS, so the International Planetarium Society, did have a committee that was originally named International Planetarium Society Emerging Committee, that was looking after the community like in Africa, where they wanted to grow the presence of planetaria. And that committee is now being merged with the International Service Committee. And through them, we could also, try to foster this network even more. Even though you haven't reached, the APA or you have a connection with the IPS, I mean, there are people that are willing to help in that sense. So I just wanted to mention that, that could also be a partner that we can look at.
Thank you for that, Lucia. Does anybody else have anything to bring to the conversation here? There's one network that we haven't mentioned that may be interested in contributing before the GA is the diaspora. And especially there are very, very interesting organizations and movement now that, especially in social media, that highlight, for example, the contribution of persons of color to the science and so on. And I think we may want to reach out to them. Like I think last week was was hashtag Black in Physics Week or something like that. And those movements have incredibly positive energy. And I think maybe we may want to connect with them as well and say, so how can we collaborate in one way or another? How can we celebrate the diversity that science is finally acquiring in more significant numbers? Does anyone have any thoughts on that? There we go. Nasser says the dark sky protection is an important aspect of the outreach program. That's a very good point. We haven't touched on dark skies actually. Maybe that should have also come in the tourism conversation. Excuse me. Right, so I will definitely make a note of that. Dark skies. There's the International Dark Sky Association is very active, and we should definitely connect with them. Then Thierry says the telescope implementation or in-country aspect have to take in account as a flagship project. Okay, so I'm not 100% sure that I understand that. Maybe Thierry, do you want to take the mic and explain to us your comment?
Yeah, thank you. Like I was saying earlier, as the same things as a planetarium, we have to, it will be better if we have a telescope that will give, I don't think it will be a gift, but it will be a kind of, I don't know how can I say it, but it will be, just say for emerging countries that want to be involved in astronomy and every activities around that, but they don't have infrastructures, they don't have tools to do that. So we can give them telescopes to help them to start at least some activities of outreach, constellations of moon, solar, etc. So that's just a point I want to raise on here.
Thank you very much, Thierry, for that input. Maybe if Kevin is listening, maybe Kevin, you can talk a little bit about this telescope distribution ambition that was going in the International Year of Astronomy in 2009, and possibly what challenges were encountered then.
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's there's a few different levels of telescope distribution. Because on the in the very basic form, we had things like Galileo scopes, and the African Astronomical Society has some of these that can be distributed as well, and these are small telescopes that can be self-assembled, but it's powerful enough at least to see the rings of Saturn and so on. And then the next level could be small telescopes where it's like a small Dobsonian or something like that. And those telescopes, we did have some donations during the International Year of Astronomy that went to different parts of Africa. But those telescopes would help to run, outreach events and things like that. And then the next level would be sort of university level telescopes that you'll find in the vision document, is to get small telescopes to universities. That'll be a bit more advanced go-to telescopes where you can do sort of basic research. And then, of course, the bigger level will be, teaching and training telescopes, which are like small observatories at universities. The main challenge with the smaller telescopes has been transport. So, getting telescopes donated is one thing, but transport is the big challenge.
Transport aspect, I think, yeah, we can ship that. It will be better once we have the availability of the telescope. We can now have a kind of partnership with Ministry of Transportation, a country to get, I would say, sponsor that or get in as his duty to bring the telescope as his destination. So I'm just see how we make responsible someone or an institution in the country where the telescope will land to being responsible for that. So because that's it.
Sure, we can take the discussion offline, but it's transport and customs duties and so on. And so we've had lots of challenges. I can fill you in offline about our experiences so far.
Thank you so much.
Carolina, I had a question about coordination.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so there's like AFAS aims to kind of unite all astronomers across the continent. Is there something similar for physics in general? And if so, can we kind of tap into that and work with them as well?
Oh, that's a good question. I think the IUPAP would be the union to discuss with for that. So it's a good point. I see that Lucia mentions the telescope collaboration of the IU. Can you maybe say a couple of words on that?
Yeah, I'm aware of that because I did have a conversation with Lena a while back because she wanted to have something similar from the OA. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Office for Astronomy Outreach for a planetarium for all. So it was a similar concept that she would like to apply for planetarium. And this is a project that was funded by them, by the IAU, and it's really like you submitted a proposal and then there were a selected proposal where they received basically a telescope. So if you look to that webpage that I link from the IAU website, you will see all the details who are the recipients for this round. And it was a 2021 project, so it's not back for the 2009 year of astronomy. I mean, it's something very recent. And I think the intention is to continue with this project, but maybe Tilina, who is here, have more information about that actually, because he's more informed than me. I don't know, Tilina, you want to comment on that?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Actually, it's an annual program, but I can also share that the OAO has the same issues that Kevin just raised. Because telescopes are considered as a luxury item in many countries, so the taxes are very high. And so that's one of the key issues of sending telescopes. And it doesn't matter how big the telescope is. It can be a really small telescope, it can be a big one. But the taxes can be like from 100% to 200%. So it's one of the biggest challenges. And we found like few solutions, like going through embassies, because embassies get things tax-free, and also through governments, but it's a really long process and really time-consuming.
Okay, great. Okay, I see we are running out of time. So I think we are going to close up on this, but I don't want this to be a sad note. I think this is, every challenge is an opportunity as well. And I would like to thank everyone for their incredible ideas. I've taken lots of notes. There's the Google Doc. Please put your ideas in there as well. And thank you. I think we have so many great things that we're going to come back to you and ask for you to come and help make happen as we go forward. So thank you so very, very, very much to everyone. And let's go back to the main session now. Oh, no, break, sorry, break time, not main session, break. The main session resumes at, sorry, let me go back to my right tab here. It starts in half an hour. So let's see you in half an hour.
Yeah, we'll start at 13:30. So it's the same Zoom link. So everyone can come back at 13:30 at the same Zoom link.